Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today, let's talk about phrases and clauses. A phrase or a clause is a group of words, but there are differences between these two. Let's see. Phrases form a single part of speech, whereas clauses have more than one part of speech in them. Phrases have no subject or verb, but clauses have got a subject, followed by a verb. Regarding their function, phrases might function as a noun, adjective, verb, adverb, or even as a preposition, but clauses function either as a subordinate or coordinate clause. Let's see the differences in summary in this table. As you can see here, coordinate clauses have a subject and verb, they form a complete thought, and they can stand alone, just like an independent sentence. On the contrary, subordinate clauses have a subject and verb, but they do not form a complete thought, and as such, they cannot stand alone. Finally, if you look at the phrases, they have no subject or verb, they have no complete thought, and as such, they cannot stand alone. So, this is the difference between phrases and clauses. Now, coming to phrases and types of phrases, first of all, we have the noun phrase. For example, a big fat wedding. Look at this sentence: the bride's father wanted a big fat wedding for his daughter. Here, a big fat wedding is a noun phrase, and the bride's father also happens to be a noun phrase. Next, we have a verb phrase. For example, is running from the sentence she is running fast. This group of verbs is what we call a verb phrase. Next, we have an adjective phrase. For example, in the sentence her dress was very beautiful, the phrase very beautiful is acting as an adjective, so this is an adjective phrase. Next comes adverb phrase, which acts as an adverb. For example, in he ran very quickly, the phrase very quickly is an adverb phrase that describes how he ran. Next, we have prepositional phrase. For example, in the park. Prepositional phrases are very easy to identify as they always begin with a preposition. For example, in the sentence they are playing in the park, the phrase in the park is a prepositional phrase. Now, look at this sentence: a little hedgehog was running very fast under the trees at night. Here, a little hedgehog is a noun phrase, was running is a verb phrase, very fast is an adverb phrase, under the trees is a prepositional phrase describing the place, and at night is another prepositional phrase indicating time. Next, let's see more phrases. Let's see here, infinitive phrases, which include the infinitive form of a verb and its modifiers. For example, in to win the championship was his goal, the phrase to win the championship is an infinitive phrase. Next are participial phrases, beginning with a participle and continuing with its modifiers or complements. For example, in running down the road, he tripped over a stone, the phrase running down the road begins with the participle running, so it is a participial phrase. Next are gerund phrases, beginning with a gerund. For example, in swimming in the ocean is our favorite activity, the phrase swimming in the ocean begins with the gerund swimming, so it is a gerund phrase. Then we have appositive phrases, which rename or identify another noun in the sentence. For example, in my brother, a skilled engineer, fixed it, the phrase a skilled engineer identifies or renames the noun phrase for my brother. So, it is an appositive phrase. And last comes the absolute phrase, a phrase that modifies the entire independent clause or the entire sentence. For example, in the storm having passed, we went outside, the phrase the storm having passed is an absolute phrase. Because it modifies the entire independent clause we went outside. So, these are all about phrases. Now, let's come to clauses. Clauses have got a subject and a verb, and they are either independent or dependent. Some grammarians term them coordinate and subordinate. Coordinates can stand alone as a sentence, whereas subordinates cannot. For example, in she went to the market and he stayed at home, she went to the market is an independent clause because it can stand alone as a sentence, and similarly, he stayed at home is also an independent clause. But if we look at the sentence, we cancelled the match as it was raining, we cancelled the match is an independent clause, followed by as it was raining, which is a subordinate clause that cannot stand alone. If we rewrite the sentence as it was raining, we cancelled the match, the independent clause is we cancelled the match, and as it begins with the dependent clause as it was raining, so we have a comma after the subordinate clause. Now, let's see the identification of coordinate clauses. First of all, they are always independent, and they are joined with a coordinate conjunction. Coordinate conjunctions are only 7 in number. You can remember them with the acronym FANBOYS, where F stands for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. So these 7 conjunctions are the coordinate conjunctions, and any clause beginning with these conjunctions happens to be an independent or coordinate clause. To identify clauses, let's have a look at these 5 sentences. The first one, I enjoy reading, is an independent clause because it can stand alone. Because it is relaxing begins with because, which is not a coordinate conjunction, so this is a subordinate clause. Similarly, in the second sentence, I hated pizza is independent, followed by the subordinate clause joined with because. In the third sentence, after we threatened to sue them, we have the conjunction after, so this is subordinate, and they gave us the money is independent. In the fourth sentence, Rosie cannot do her homework is independent clause, and the next clause joins it with until, a subordinate clause. So, it is a subordinate clause. Finally, in the fifth sentence, since the car broke down on the road, we have the conjunction since, so it is subordinate, and we called the mechanic is independent. This is how we identify clauses very easily. Now, let's have a look at these 2 small paragraphs from Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart. Look at the first paragraph, the first sentence, he was called the cat because his back would never touch the earth. Here, we are going to identify only the subordinate clauses. The first clause is independent, so the second one is subordinate because it begins with a subordinate conjunction. Similarly, the next sentence, that Okonkwo threw in a fight, is subordinate because it begins with that, which is not included in Fanboys. Again, the next one also begins with a conjunction not included in Fanboys, so it is also subordinate, and again, this one begins with since, so it is a subordinate clause. But then, you look at the second paragraph. Here, we have the conjunctions as and but, both of which are included in Fanboys, A for and, B for but, so, these are coordinate conjunctions. Therefore, these 2 sentences have no subordinate clauses. Altogether, in these 2 paragraphs, the subordinate clauses are these 4, and the rest are coordinate clauses. This is how we identify them very easily.